What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Monday. First Monday of the road to number 6 offseason. Huge offseason for the Hurricanes. Already in full swing. Portal's gone crazy. Got a ton to catch up on. Tons to look forward to. Recruiting, freshmen on campus. You name it. All the stuff going on. Schedule comes out tonight. Football is rocking and rolling here deep into January. Folks that are always rocking and rolling, Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
D, good morning.
Good morning, man. How we feeling?
Good, man. You remember when Jason Terry used to wear the opposing team's boxers before the night before the game?
I do not, but
well, I had to pull out some Blue Devil blue today. The hue of Blue Devil, the closest I could find, for the occasion. Why not?
Yeah, let's talk about the occasion, Pete. Let's just jump right into it because the occasion hasn't occasioned yet, but feels like it's getting close. So Matt Zenitz yesterday sent out a tweet which basically said that the parties, meaning Mensah and Duke, might remember not a party to this lawsuit, are discussing potential settlement that would allow him to go into the portal and then move on to his school of choice, which we all expect to be the Miami Hurricanes. Now, that doesn't mean anything is done. But in my experience, when you start seeing tweets like that with both parties talking about a resolution in a very high-profile case, hearings on Thursday, there's a deadline, it's Monday, that tells me things are speeding up, and it tells me the parties do not want the uncertainty of the hearing. So look, I've said why I think there's no way Duke can really stop Mensah from transferring, but there's a judge involved. There's a human involved. Does he want to be a cowboy? It's hard to predict. You had some other stuff going on. Dabo had his whole speech. You just really don't know how the judge might approach it. So there's uncertainty from both sides. From the Miami side, the uncertainty is judge tries to be a cowboy. You have to appeal. Your schedule gets all messed up trying to deal with this mess. The risk from the Duke side is that, number one,
you might want to explain the be a cowboy thing. Because at first I wasn't.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, thanks for stopping me there. So what I mean is we've explained on prior shows that to rule, the judge were to say, all right, Mensah, you are enjoined by virtue of this NIL contract from leaving schools and enrolling somewhere else. This judge would be grossly expanding the NIL contract to be more of an employment contract and limiting freedom of movement in a way that some employment contracts can't even do. So that would be extraordinary. And that would upend basically what we understand about these contracts, about college football, and about everything else. It would just be wrong, and it would be very impactful and outside the norm. He could do that because he's a judge. He could do everything he wants. Obviously, it'll get appealed and probably lose, but he could do that and it could screw things up. So there's uncertainty there anytime you deal with a judge and a hearing and human beings. On the Duke side, you got a few risks. Number one, you could lose the hearing, which I think is the most likely outcome as far as the injunction, and then be left to fight about money. Now, that doesn't mean they lose. Duke's not going to lose this case as far as they're not going to get money from one of the parties. Seems clear there was a breach here. They're going to get some money. So when I say lose, I don't mean that. But I mean, they might lose the ability to keep Mensah from leaving on Thursday at that hearing. If that happens, Mensah's enrolled on Friday at the school of his choice. We think Miami. And they've lost a lot of leverage over Miami, and now they're just fighting about money. So that's one risk. The other risk, and we talked about this with Jim Sala, on the UM law professor on the prior pod, is he might win, or Duke might win, I should say. So if Duke wins, and meaning on the injunction part, and he can't leave, now the NCAA is looking at it like, wow, you have now expanded this NIL contract into an employment contract. These players have an argument that they're employees. And that's the last thing we, the NCAA, want, is for these players to be employees because we've got to pay them benefits and all that. They've been fighting that for 100 years. Duke is a member institution of the NCAA. So the NCAA doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It is the schools that make up the NCAA. So Duke, by winning, could ultimately lose in the bigger fight against players being employees, which I think they should be, but that's a different story. So that's a lot of uncertainty for a state court hearing. This judge is not like a Supreme Court judge, right? So these judges are not all created equal. So there's just one instead of obviously a Supreme Court or an appellate, group of judges, a panel. So right here, what you're talking about is both sides trying to reduce the risk of this hearing on Thursday by settling. Miami pays some money. Well, really, Mensah pays some money, but ultimately, I'm sure he's made whole by Miami in this deal. And then Duke gets money they can spend on, I don't know, basketball players, whatever, and they move on. Both parties move on. Mensah goes to Miami. He's enrolled. Miami has their quarterback. So I think that really is we predicted it, me and Jim Sala, again, law professor, all the other legal pods I've listened to have said the same thing, that this should result in a settlement before the hearing to lessen the risk of an adverse ruling. That to me is how this thing plays out. We'll see. But the fact that it leaked yesterday, today is Monday. I could see Monday being the day. I mean, today that something happens. We'll have to wait and see. If that does happen, obviously Mensah quickly will have to make a decision. I think he'll pick the University of Miami. So that's what we're watching right now, Pete. And by the way, same time that this leaked, some other news leaked, which is that Walker Eggett from San Jose State, starting quarterback, has committed to Duke out of the transfer portal. And it will be enrolling in Duke out of the transfer portal. So coincidentally, when we start hearing settlement talk leaked by multiple sources to 247 and on 3, same time, you get a quarterback commit, presumably for your starting quarterback in Walker Eggett. He's a starting quarterback. He was a starting quarterback at San Jose State. He was looking for an opportunity to start. He then moves on to the ACC to start for Duke. So putting 2 and 2 together, Pete, I think this gets done pretty soon. I could be wrong. I think this gets done pretty soon. And I think when it gets done, money will go in the direction of Duke. Miami will get the player. And Mensah won't pay a dime ultimately of his own money. And then the parties will avoid the risk of all the uncertainty. They probably, my guess would be they would release. In fact, you'd hope this would happen if you're Miami. This is not to guess. Like, I'd be shocked if this doesn't happen, but it should happen. That Miami would be released from any kind of like tortious interference claim, meaning in layman's terms, and you saw this with the Xavier Lucas deal. If Duke wanted to sue Miami, they could arguably come up with a claim that Miami caused Mensah to breach his contract with Duke. They meddled with Mensah with the intention of Mensah breaking his contract with Duke. Therefore, they tortiously interfered with his contract, giving rise to civil damages, money, basically. So I would think, even though Miami's not a party to this suit, that Miami could potentially be the party to a settlement. It could be some kind of blanket release that any school that Mensah signs with or visits is released from a claim of tortious interference with Mensah's NIL contract, something like that. I don't know what it would be, but it would basically avoid a future lawsuit between Miami and Duke while resolving this one between Mensah and Duke. So we'll see. Stay tuned. We'll be live right after it happens, if it happens today or anytime this week.
I don't have anything else to add. You explained the legal part. I've said from the beginning, Mensah will be a Cane. I mean, those around him have been pretty adamant about it from the beginning. Even before the news went public. So I don't have any reason to believe anything different. So Miami seems calm about everything, and I expect it to happen as soon as you get a resolution. I mean, he'll be enrolling that right that day. I would imagine. So, yeah.
Time's ticking, right? Because it's amazing.
Is it?
You tell me.
I don't know. I don't know that it's ticking at this point. The enrollment period, the official enrollment period already passed. Spring football doesn't start until mid-March. So it is the clock is the clock ticking? I don't know. I mean, you don't want it to drag out in the legal system just because it gets annoying, but you can't stop the kid from coming to Miami. Let it happen ASAP. But is the clock ticking? I don't know that it is.
Yeah, it's a good point. And for those who don't know, spring has been moved back this year. And I think that was before
it was
the playoffs.
before even the championship game. It was already going to be a later thing, but you're looking at probably late March, mid to late March there.
But you want to get these guys acclimated. You want to get them ready to rock and roll. So the clock's not ticking as far as like he's going to miss a deadline at this point.
I'll say this. Here's the real deadline. Players are essentially off the next 3. The veteran and returning players, transfer guys are off the next 3 weeks. Essentially, it's a recovery period for them. The freshmen started workouts this morning, which we'll get into later in the show. Hearing some stuff about guys who are impressing early on here, but I would say I was joking around there, but I think legitimately it's about 3 weeks is what you're looking at there, D, because you want him here when the team workouts begin.
No doubt. And remember, he has a good friend from California in Cooper Barkate, Big Barkate, the Shimmy Master, Spider-Man. That's a celebration, right? The Spider-Man.
The Spider. He does a Spider-Man. He does that. I think the Shimmy was a one-time thing. But he's in Miami. He may need to bring it back, for future use. So
that needs to get resolved. I think the ability to have Mensah wearing a UM polo, right, or have the UM edit makes a lot more likely you're going to get Cooper Barkate before like a Notre Dame or someone like that circles and tries to get him because he's technically up for grabs. He's in the transfer portal. It's not like he's Miami or bust on paper, although I think Miami is everybody's expectation. But that could happen. And you want to get this kid around. By the way, Pete, while we're on the topic of Mensah, I did a lot of digging on the character stuff this weekend because I just don't know Mensah. I don't know much about him other than he's from Central Coast of California, San Luis Obispo, right there. It's not Southern Cal. It's not Northern Cal. It's Central Cal. Foggy area, nice beaches. So I didn't know much about him beyond that. Digging in, talking to people at Miami, talking to people around Duke. Everybody says this guy's character, outstanding. Like all the concerns I had about a Sam Levitt, a Jordan Seaton, Mensah, I heard great character, clean as a whistle, great team guy, great to be around. Watched an interview with him and it was actually him and his sister Grace, who's a soccer player at Oregon. I believe they're twins. They might be twins. They're close in age, very close period. And they were interviewed together. You could just tell all-American family, clean as a whistle, great personalities, smart, all the things you want in the leader of your team. So great looking family too. They'll look good in Miami if they can get both together. They said they like the beach. The girl, their sister Grace, she said loves the beach because now she's at Oregon. She's from San Luis Obispo, which is on the beach. Says miss the beach, and she said she was the one that told her brother Darian to do the Cam Ward celly when he did the Cam Ward celly. I believe Mensah also trained with Cam Ward recently. So kind of some breadcrumbs back then when he was still at Duke and she was still at Oregon about going to Miami. So good interview. It was on with the Draft Network. But I said a lot of red flags around Sam Levitt. I'm getting green flags with Mensah on the character stuff.
Yeah, I've heard great things as well. It was supposedly like a month ago that he had re-signed his deal with Duke. So they say, right? The only thing worse than that would be leaving your job 18 days after signing a deal. Do you know anyone who's done that?
It wasn't someone who left for a very successful stint, but I do know someone who did it and failed at the subsequent job.
I do too. I think he actually might be the head coach at Duke. So many. I mean, the
Temple head coach Manny Diaz.
Dude, the hypocrisy here across the board is just
Temple head coach Manny Diaz and Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah.
It's a joke. It's a joke, dude. But I think the situation is just it's just playing out in an embarrassing fashion for them at the end of the day. So
let's see how it resolves. Honestly, I think Duke will come out of it fine in terms of like they would have shown that they can enforce their contracts to get money. They'll get some money. So in that respect, like they're not going to do it's not like they're going to get just smoked in the case. I think ultimately what happened was they couldn't keep the player because their program's not good enough, and the law is not such that they can keep their player at their inferior program based on a one-sided contract, which truthfully should have never been signed. I mean, that contract is a disaster. I don't know the specifics of how that was negotiated, but that contract between Mensah and Duke, from a Mensah standpoint, is a complete one-sided disaster. Just to give you an example, the relief if Mensah were to breach the contract, which that's what this whole case is about, there's arguably injunctive relief available for Mensah's breach. Injunctive relief meaning an injunction from the court that basically stops you from doing something. This is separate from money that you're paying. This is like, hey, you can't do this because you broke the contract. In this case, transferring, right? That's what we're fighting about here. If Duke were to breach the contract, there's no injunctive relief available. It's only money, and the money's capped. So it's like Duke can breach, and Mensah can breach, and Mensah has limited remedies available, and Duke has all the extreme remedies available. So it's just a one-sided contract, and that is what it is. It's a whole separate argument, but ultimately, Duke is not wearing the white hat here. Duke are the devil. The Devils is the devil. The devil's not alive. The devil resides in Durham, and the devil is not going to win this battle, thankfully.
Yeah. I'm sure Duke fans will spin it in a way that they won, but at the end of the day, Walker Eget's going to be their quarterback, and Darian Mensah is going to be Miami's quarterback. I don't think Miami ever, when the situation came to be, ever said to themselves, hey, this is going to be a cheap situation.
No, I think they went in with their eyes open, and Duke's doing what they do. I understand why they're frustrated. It's a
dog-eat-dog world.
I would say it's a humbling situation. Probably humiliating is a more accurate term for what Duke's going through, but it's the reality. It's the food chain.
Listen, I'm getting a lot of comments about wearing the Duke blue. If you guys are just joining the show, I said at the start, if you guys remember Jason Terry, the Jet, Dallas Mavericks guard back in the day, used to wear the opposing team's boxers the night before the game. It's not quite boxers, but I got to wear it on this occasion.
Jason Terry dunked on by LeBron famously.
Yeah.
You're going to see Giannis dunking on people like that soon in those Heat colors. I see that trade formulating. We just got to keep Kasparis Yakachunas, like what I'm seeing from him.
I give you everywhere but finishing around the rim. That's a weakness right now.
It's fine. It's an adjustment period. His shot looks good. I'll tell you, guys not having any problem finishing. Shelton Henderson, man, especially when he gets in those in transition. That boy is dangerous in transition.
That was big bounce back win, man. We'll get into that. We should do a little segment at the end about basketball because that was a big bounce back win. But
yeah, man, I love that team. I love how they play. Love their demeanor. But let's shift gears here, Pete. But first, before we do that, actually, let's give a shout out to the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. If you're an athlete, consider yourself an athlete, weekend warrior. You know how hard it is to sit on the injured list with pain or injury. Maybe you can try to hack your own rehab, come back earlier. But if compromising your movement or performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. There's elite athletic performance like the University of Miami basketball team, football team, or just everyday movement. The experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute will help you recover your game. Make your appointment today at uhealthsports.com. Also got to shout out our friends at Islas Canarias Cuban Express. 7 different types of croquetas. I saw a tweet. Actually, let me pull this tweet up because I saw an offensive tweet, Pete, from Mark Hochman, who I don't know him personally. I've listened to him on the radio before, a local sports personality. Do you know Hochman at all?
Yeah, Hawk's a good dude.
He seems like a good dude. So there's no obviously nothing personal with Hawk, but he made a very bad error talking about Dayland Mall, where, let me pull it up here and find it. He was talking about the food court. There he goes. Here we go. So he was talking about Dayland Mall, and he said, "Did anyone else know they're putting Fat Tuesdays in mall food courts?" Of course, this right here is the one and only Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, as I had to remind him. It's not a food court. It's a dining pavilion. Best Cuban restaurant on the planet. 7 different types of croquetas, pastries, desserts, you name it. Tequeño is 50% off in honor of our Venezuelan brothers and sisters and their victory. So, a lot going on, man. A lot going on at the Dining Pavilion, East Las Canarias Cuban Express. So, yeah, that's it. A lot going on in Green Tree too, right, Pete? You've been talking about it in the Discord. You've talked about it on the show. What's new here?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned a few minutes ago, the team, the returning guys pretty much have the next few weeks off. So they don't really even have to be in there at all. I'm sure some guys still go in there and get some lifts in. But really this morning, the freshman workouts began. And these guys have gotten a taste because they got to practice for the championship game week. Some of them were here for Ole Miss week and the Ohio State week as well. So a guy like Jackson Cantwell has been here for a month plus now at this point. So it's big for a guy like him to get that early taste, but the entire class now began their workouts this morning. Just some guys that I think have impressed early, D. I would say defensively, J.J. Edwards is a name that keeps getting brought up a lot. And at linebacker, obviously, I know you did a show yesterday about Popo. Aguirre leaving. He signed with NC State this morning to go play with his brother. So best of luck to Popo. Chase Smith will be returning, as I reported on the Discord yesterday. I think that's a really important guy coming back here. With him and Monterey, you've got experience. One could say you've got some experience there between those two, but you have a real physical aspect. And then I think you can let some of the young guys like a Kellen Wiley here, like a JJ Edwards, who I think he's someone who just his speed has flashed early. And we saw that on his high school tape, but he also knows how to play the game. D.
JJ Edwards from Orlando. It's amazing. Orlando's become a really, really strong spot for the Miami Hurricanes. Let's pull some film of this dude because we got film of these guys. That's the good thing about talking about freshmen. You can watch their high school film with no copyright. So let's pull some of this stuff up here because I was just sitting home watching our freshman class again just because I love watching these dudes and their highlights, man. These guys are real deal talented players. And right there near the top of the list is a Justin J.J. Edwards from Orlando. You talk about Darion Coleman. You talk about the 2 offensive linemen we signed, 3 offensive linemen we signed last year, Wilkerson Campbell and Max Buchanan, who could be a starter this year. You lose a Malik Bryant, who is from Orlando, but you add Coleman from Orlando Jones. You add J.J. Edwards from Edgewater, the water, as it says on the jersey, former Rutgers commit, and you really, really are starting to make inroads into Orlando. DeAnthony Lafayette, who I know you'll talk about in a second, another one from that area. But look at this guy, man. Look at the speed and versatility that this guy plays with. He's just a modern linebacker to the core, verified 4.5, so you know he can do that. Look at that. Boom. Whew. His giddy up. You can see why he's laser 4.5, man, because on film, he flies. And you see him, that was in coverage. Here you go. Special teams.
I don't need to see any blocked punts for the next 6 months, D.
I had the same exact thought. But here you go. Look at him. He's lined up there in coverage.
This is what I like to see, the coverage stuff.
But look, there he is. He's getting after it. Look at the closing speed. Boom. And he strikes him. I mean, this guy, where he really blew up for Miami was on the camp circuit, not only testing really, really well, but also covering well in all the drills. And they saw him in spring, and they were like, man, this guy's an elite player. We got to get him.
He was committed to Stanford?
Rutgers,
excuse me. Okay.
Oh, you see,
I got to ask someone at Rutgers about him because, oof.
For a leaner guy, he packs a punch when he gets there. And I heard he's gained weight. I saw him when he showed up on campus. He looked heavier. Good instincts there.
Love that.
So what's some of the stuff you're hearing about Edwards, P? Why is generating?
No, fast. That his speed is crazy, and that he knows how to play the game. I think he's probably like a will linebacker. Is probably where he projects.
Right, like where Wesley Saints played this year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, similar body types. He's probably going to be bigger than Wesley.
Yeah, maybe a little more athletic.
Yeah, I think a little bit more because Wesley can run, but I think he's maybe a little bit more fluid of an athlete than Wesley.
Yeah, and 4.5 in high school. I mean, that's on a laser. That's pretty fast. Yeah. That's on the high end.
So Edwards, and I mentioned him because you're still going to be needing some of these young guys to step up at linebacker, right? This isn't that's going to be one of the positions that you wouldn't expect Chase and Mo Toure to need that many reps in spring. I think you're going to see a lot of veteran days for those guys in the spring, like you see in the NFL, really, right. Because you want to get the young guys caught up to speed. But J.J. Edwards is a name I've heard early. DeAnthony Lafayette, lightning in a bottle is how he's been described to me. Ashari Charles was sick when he came in. He came in a little sick from he got sick at the All-American practice, so they were kind of keeping him out just because they didn't. Obviously, the team was getting ready for the championship, didn't want him to get anyone sick there.
Dominated the All-America too. Ashari Charles did. He was an alpha dog a few times.
Yeah, but DeAnthony Lafayette, I mean, his first step, they're saying, is as advertised, right? We talked about it here a lot, but oof, God.
It's the side to side to me because yes, he has the first step, but then he stops on a dime and cuts, just like Kenneth Walker in the hole yesterday for Seattle. That's what it looks like. By the way, he also plays running back, so it makes sense why he has those juke moves. Look at that! Whoop! His side to side is unreal. DeAnthony Lafayette makes sense.
Yeah, and look, we saw last year a Herbert Scroggins emerge when not that many people thought, hey, is this guy going to be able to actually get legitimate reps? He works himself in the mix. I would look for one of him or Ashari Charles to get some real time next season.
Yeah, I would agree. Steve Smith saying, okay, D, we do this every year with our freshman class, pump the brakes. Pretty sure 5 of those guys played in the national championship game, not on special teams, on offense and defense. At least 5, right? Malachi, one of your top players. Bryce, one of your top players. Scroggins played, I believe, a little bit. Luka Gilbert. Who else played as a true freshman? I know there's another one that I'm missing. SJ as that fullback role. So that's 5 true freshmen playing. So that's pretty good. Talking about not even including look at the Anthony Lafayette playing running back. Pretty good for an edge rusher. But I think 5 freshmen played in the national championship game on offense or defense. So
yeah, and guys, listen to what we're saying too. Who did I just compare? Who did I just say? I said Herbert Scroggins, who worked himself into the mix as like by the end of the season was getting some snaps and getting in the mix. But like it's not like we relied on him to be a mainstay. But he now got his feet wet. And Josh Moore, Kyle says as well, who's another guy.
6 freshman, yep.
So, yeah, I don't think it's crazy hype. We're just we got a class of 30 players. There's going to be some guys who stick out early. I would also say that Jordan Campbell is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah,
because he was an edge guy, but he's probably in that 210 plus range already. He's not going to really be an edge at this level, in my opinion. You can have him blitz there occasionally, but that's not going to be his set position. But he's got some serious twitch. Another guy who football IQ has already been talked about. Mike linebacker may not be out of the equation for this guy.
I love this guy. He was like the first guy we interviewed, I feel, when we went full time here with CanesInSight on the podcast. We saw him at the Under Armour camp. Remember, he was
he at Carroll City at that point?
Yeah, he was a rising junior. So he was in Broward. I want to say, I forgot where he was in Broward. He was in a Broward program like Hollandale or something like that. Someone I'm sure in the chat will remind me. And then he went to Carroll City and then Northwestern. So he'd been bouncing around. But the reason I never bought that he was an edge, and look, I heard people say this internally that he might be an edge. I never bought it. Number one, like you mentioned, the size is not ideal for an edge. But while you see him at Northwestern playing edge, when he was at these other schools, he played safety, He played off-ball linebacker. He played linebacker at the Under Armour game as an underclassman and looked great doing it. Had a big goal line stand playing linebacker. So I never thought he had a problem moving around laterally at all, and he has experience seeing it from the linebacker position. So yeah, they put him at edge because he was very disruptive there for Northwestern, helped them win high school games. But I don't see him as like one of these edges, which we've had a few of those guys that couldn't
from Northwestern. From Northwestern, we've had Mike Smith, who ended up turning into a really nice, serviceable player for Miami.
After a bad injury, yeah,
after a bad injury, he had that big game against North Carolina, the Thursday night game that we won, and then Sam Brooks was another one that I was going to say.
Bad injury.
Yeah, another bad injury. So, but yeah, I think he can be as we just. Again, we want to look for some of these young guys at this linebacker position that you're losing Besant, you're losing Popo, who played a good amount of football this year and was expected to play a lot next year as well. But now you look at some of these young guys with some twitch that can get active and play certain roles, right? You throw them in there to cover the halfback out of the backfield, send them on a blitz. You don't ask them to do too much early on.
No doubt. He's a special teams guy too, potentially. But this is what Heatherman likes as far as the way these guys are built. He likes them, with legitimate size, length, and athleticism. He's a tools guy more than you would think. You would think he'd come from the Northeast. He's all about the smartest guy in the room as far as like the most advanced. He wants guys that are long, athletic, and fast, and get those. He'll turn those guys into linebackers that know what's going on, assuming they are good learners and all that. What Nate Pete, I know you've heard him mention before, and I've heard him mention as both like a guy that's flashing early and also as a potential instant contributor at a position we don't actually think a lot of being an instant contributor. Keyshawn Stansel out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, you tell me if you're hearing the same thing, but I'm hearing this guy is a pretty early contributor here on the defensive line.
Yeah, I think defensive lineman, there's some growth to do. Obviously, he's someone that comes in as one of the more highly rated guys in this class. You flip him from Clemson, but if you can get him to grow up in a hurry, then he's got the physical tools to be a dude.
Yeah, and you look at Jarquez Carter, who's going to be a sophomore for you, but someone that's on a ascendant player, similar style as Stansel, upfield guy, super athletic and twitchy. You bring in Keona Davis, who's going to play a lot, third-year player from Nebraska, already a starter for Nebraska. So he's entering his junior year as a full-time starter from Nebraska. You bring him in the portal, a lot of upside there, great body type, longer than Stansel and some of these other guys, Carter. So there's young talent at that position. Armando Blunt can play inside and outside. And of course, you bring back Scott Moten. So defensive tackle, I think, is one position that now you've seen the portal go through, you've seen the high school class go through. That, to me, is going to be a major strength of Miami next year. Just like defensive end was for Miami this year, I think defensive tackle is shaping up, at least preseason, to be a huge, huge strength. We've seen senioritis before. Remember 2002, we had a great defensive line returning, and some of those guys took the foot off the gas getting ready for the championship, for the NFL draft. I don't think you're going to see that with these guys. They're so hungry between Moten and Scott and all these other guys, Blunt. I think they're going to do a great job, but you got to do it. On paper, though, great defensive tackle group.
Yeah, and with these young guys, I caution still. We got to be patient. You look at Justin Scott, the highest rated recent D tackle Miami's landed as a top 10 player in the country. Even not only after his first year, but coming out of camp this year, there were still some people saying, what a talent, but we need him to be more consistent. And I think you saw that over the course of the year, and he became that really number 2 guy right after Moten. But go ahead.
No, I could not agree more.
I just think that, and that's a guy I'm saying him because he was a highly rated guy. Leonard Taylor he's now developing at the next level, right? I think he obviously probably should have stayed another year in college, but these guys sometimes develop at a different rate.
Yep. No, so you got the comment from Port Knox. They had a block for New England last night, Leonard Taylor, really to win them the game. So very, very impressive moment for a pro Kane and Stanson. You hope to get more out of him earlier, but I agree with the Justin Scott comparison. These D tackles can take a second. They're talented, but he's a guy that I've heard from multiple people like, hey, we love his talent. We think he'd be really, really good there. One more, freshman that always gets highlighted to me. We talked about Wingo. I won't get into Wingo, but we've heard him a lot. I'm excited to see him with all these other guys that are doing their thing. But the name that really, to me, comes up consistently is JJ Dunnigan. And just seeing pictures of him, how big this dude is at safety. He played some corner. He actually got an interception playing corner at the Under Armour All-America game as an underclassman. So he's that kind of athlete. But, man, just seeing how he looks physically at Miami, the size is not going to be a problem. He's going to be an upper-level size-wise safety. I think, honestly, he looks like physically? Jacoby Thomas. Now, will he be as crazy and nasty as Jacoby Thomas? We'll see. I think athletically he's probably even better. I mean, this guy's a top-tier athlete, as you see on some of these highlights. I know it's Kansas, but he does exactly what he's supposed to do against Kansas competition. And the secondary is deep. We'll get into some of the portal returnees in this next segment. But he has a chance to play at safety, man. I wouldn't put it past him, just like Fitzgerald did as a true freshman.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the fact that he's been here now for a few weeks. He was one of those guys that didn't just get here late. I mean, he's been here pretty much since week 1 of the playoffs, right after the A&M game. So, and I know his dad was traveling with, went to a couple of these games. I saw on social media. So they seem very, very invested in this thing. And he gives you that different body type back there, right, D?
100%. And just, similar to Bryce Fitzgerald, different body type, bigger than Bryce Fitzgerald, maybe a little more physical. Yeah. But what you saw this with Bryce Fitzgerald too, which is when you watch Bryce Fitzgerald tapes, what's he doing? Catching touchdowns, returning touchdowns, kickoff, returning touchdown, punt. Obviously the interceptions. Bryce Fitzgerald was a whole nother level of interceptions. The best we've seen since Cam. Kitchen's probably better as far as the ball hawking skills, but Dunnigan does that too. It's if you can get this guy and Fitzgerald together, along with some of the other guys that we got at safety, it starts to get a little interesting, man, because Miami, when they're at their best, Sean Taylor, Ed Reed, I'm not comparing these guys to that. I'm just using an example of when we're at our best. Antraw Roll. Those guys that are safeties, corners, they're offensive players too, and they can
Hold on. BSA says, please, Pete, stop comparing OJ to anybody. He's the best in the nation. What did I say? I haven't mentioned OJ's name.
OJ Frederick?
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about here, BSA.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think you might have misheard. I did not mention OJ.
No, but I think I was comparing these guys to Sean Taylor and Reed, so you should have been mad at me. No, but I'm not really saying that that's the comp. I'm just saying that when Miami's at their best, you have defensive backs that can score touchdowns and not just deflect the ball. And I think when you get a Dunnigan, when you get a Fitzgerald, John Tavius Wyman, who you got in this class too, like these are guys that when you watch their highlights, they are electrifying with the ball in their hands. And you could see these guys. You've already seen Bryce Fitzgerald return some for a long way. You could see Dunnigan, as we've seen here on kickoff, getting his hands on an interception or a fumble and taking it a long way. He's just that kind of athlete. And I think people in Miami are very, very excited about what this guy brings to the table. Look at the strength, by the way, here to finish this run. This is not a 175-pound athlete here with JJ Dunnigan. This guy looks like he's going to be a 200-pounder when it's all said and done.
D, someone I should bring up, just because some people were asking. He had posted a picture the other day. Joel Irvin he posted that he had a procedure. It was a meniscus issue, and that's meniscus. It's a very relatively minor procedure there. So the expectation is he shouldn't miss much of spring, if any at all. Obviously, you want to be careful with a guy like that, a big boy in his first spring, but usually that's a 6 to 8 week sort of thing. So he should be good to go here within the next month plus.
Yeah,
so, and he's someone who could push for some playing time, man.
That's what I was going to say. It's a shame that he's hurt because, and luckily it's not worse, but he's the kind of guy that could help solve our issue as far as we're talking about offensive line missing guys, and we do. So you get the graphic out because he pushes so many guys out of bounds, so we got to see it. But this to me is a guy that he's going to be raw. He's not coming from IMG. He's going to block 2 guys right here and then just bury these dudes. He's a guy to me that I think if he picks it up mentally quick and makes that adjustment mentally, his physical tools, when you look at how athletic he is, we know he's 6'7", 325 plus with 11-inch hands. He's mean as a rattlesnake. I mean, he's burying guys. This is not like a gentle giant. You could tell he has an edge to him. He drives multiple guys into the sideline or just plops on them. I could see a situation. You don't want 2 true freshmen necessarily starting for you at offensive line. That's not how you draw it up. But look at him in space, man. If you can get a guy who has the size ready to dominate and the athleticism dominate and he's ready to go, you got 2. I mean, not everybody has 2 guys like a Joel Irvin and then like a Jackson Cantwell in the same class, not to mention some of these other guys who have been playing well, including one you're going to mention. I know, Pete. But yes, it's not ideal to start multiple true freshmen on the defensive line or multiple true freshmen playing, on the offensive line. But if they're ready to go and they're not Zion Nelson size, Ja'Kai Clark size, those guys they played too early for their bodies. If they're 325 plus, and they're ready to rock, like Cantwell might be, like Joel Irvin might be, like some of these other guys might be, then you play him and you're glad you got some talent. But there's a guy that we're not talking about a lot, Pete, that speaking of Orlando and all the guys we've been pulling out of the Orlando area, there's somebody that's generating a little bit of buzz from that area here already.
Reese Woodrow, man, that guy is going to be a good player at Miami. I really think that this is one that early on has shown he belongs. Offensive line D is one that you can always tell physically. Like if a guy's not there yet, you could say, well, he's got to get in the weight room. He's got to toughen up a little bit, the speed of the game. But if a guy's showing already that they are there from a physical standpoint, it's coming up a little choppy here, D.
Oh, okay.
For me, I don't know if it looks like that on your end as well, but just giving you the heads up. I mean, big time athlete. We've talked about the baseball background as well. Nasty. Weight room stuff is looking really good with him, and I think he's got a high level of football IQ. He's a favorite in there already. And you had Nino Francavilla leave, who I think he could end up being on. We'll see where he ends up, but I think he could be a guy in a year or two that ends up starting where he goes. Woodrow is someone that I think is probably a notch above him athletically. And look, you're going to have Ryan Rodriguez as the starter this year in all likelihood. S.J. Alafatuli, of course, continuing to develop as a snapper, putting some good weight on him. But after that, you've got an open opportunity for him, for Reese Woodrow, a J.J. Sparks here. But Woodrow, to me, is going to be a real deal center here in a couple years.
Yeah, and I just think this class in general is going to be outstanding on the offensive line. It came at a time when you needed it. You saw how these other classes were bled out. So let's talk about that, Pete, about this portal movement. But first, actually, let's talk about our friends at the OrchidMan, ORCHID Florida.com. South Florida's premier landscape artisans. Palm Beach all the way down to the Florida Keys, 786-271-0332. 10% off your first service for a limited time only. This guy's doing some massive, massive projects all over Dade County, all over South Florida, but some huge ones in Dade that you'll be reading about in the papers. Commercial properties, residential properties. He will take care of you, and he'll think about all the things, and his team, all the things that you don't want to think about, the details, the dirty work and the pretty work. ORCHIDmanflorida.com. One of the best friends Canes Athletics has. ORCHIDmanflorida.com. So, Pete, we do have some transfer portal movement here, both retentions and guys being added. We talked about some of the people leaving. Popo Aguirre going to NC State, which I think is a good spot for him. I think that team's going to be fun to watch with some of the local guys that they are bringing in, meaning local South Florida guys that are going up to North Carolina State with CJ Bailey. But Miami does add a offensive lineman in Jonathan Klein. This is a name that's been linked to Miami since high school. He's from Cartersville, Georgia, went to UCF. That didn't work out, then goes to East Tennessee State. And Miami's always kept track of this guy. I don't know what the connection is, but Miami's always had.
Well, you know who played at East Tennessee State this year was Frankie Tinalau, and then now he's at JMU. So
there must be some sort of coach connection there. But this is a guy Miami's had their eye on for a while. And I think if you look at the players leaving, meaning Tommy Kinsler, Ole Miss, Nino Francavili, we'll see where he goes. Derek Plaz, did he go to Auburn?
Auburn, yeah.
Derek Plaz to Auburn. A lot of those class of 2024 guys on their way out to class of 2023 with Tommy Kinsler gone. Tinalau has left. So you have lost guys who were going to be depth for you out the door. So you need depth. You need players to help you get through a practice. I mean, there's 3 offensive lines that play in a practice. That's 15 players. So you need guys that can play and the guys that you might be able to develop here into players. So what are you laughing about, Pete?
I don't want to get us off track. I'll tell you what I'm laughing at in just a second. It's something in the comments, but this is I think it's a nice depth piece here. You see in these pictures from, I mean, this visit here, D, was from 4 years ago.
Yeah,
it's a big boy 4 years ago.
Yeah, and he'll be tough. He'll battle again. I think some people, it's hard to understand if you're not there every day and seeing it, because I didn't appreciate it before then, is you need to run a practice. And when you have five players, 3 lines, it's, like I said, 15 players. So do we have 15 offensive linemen right now? Let's just look at a projected starting line. This is just a very, very early projection. We talked about it might not be legit. There's different permutations. But let's say McCoy at left tackle. Let's put Max Buchanan at left guard just to have seniors mixed with freshmen and young players. Let's put Ryan Rodriguez at center. Let's put Sampson at right guard. And let's put Jackson Campbell at right tackle. That way you mix the young players with the old players on the sides. Second team in that scenario would be S.J. Alafatuli at center. Juan Minaya, let's say, at guard. You could put a Jonathan Klein at guard just for discussion purposes. And then tackles from last year, Wilkerson and Campbell. Now your your third offensive line is basically your freshman class. Cannon Pickett's hurt right now. So you're talking about Joel Irvin at left tackle, J.J. Sparks at guard, Reese Woodrow at center, Ben Congdon at guard. Sorry, Ben Congdon at tackle, and who would be your other guard? Sparks and I guess he'd be shorter guy.
Wait, where'd you put Minaya?
He's the second team. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You're missing players there. So, and what of course guys get hurt. You don't always have all those guys available. So when you go through the names, you see how quickly you need players. I think that's where Klein comes in. And look, could he develop into somebody who plays? Absolutely. We don't know. And that's why Mirabel's a great developer. Everybody's going to be a little different. So I think that's what it is. You need to have 15 plus players who can help you get through a practice and then potentially develop into big time players.
Good depth piece. Good depth piece to add, man. I don't think anyone can be upset at the addition. No. I do think D on the offensive line. I don't think I said anything on this one.
Jamal Merriweather.
Merriweather.
Thank you.
Man, let me tell you something. Merriweather is someone I think that he's one of those that the fans are not going to be as high on him as what they are inside, right? As fans, a lot of people wanted Jordan Seaton. We understand this. He's probably a top 10 pick next year. Should be a good player at LSU. Great. Jamal Merriweather, Miami believes they've got a guy with next level NFL movement skills at 6'7", 310, 315 plus here. That I wouldn't count him out of the equation. He can play some guard, D, but I wouldn't count him out of the equation for right tackle either. Miami thinks that under their development, their coaching, this is a guy that can be an NFL player. And if you take Markel Bell from JUCO and do what you did with him, why can't you take a guy from Georgia with incredible physical tools and do something similar.
I think the same age as Markel Bell when he came into Miami anyways, because he's a fourth-year player now coming in this year, right? So entering his fourth year, he was a 3-star. A lot of these Georgia guys, you think of them as 5-star ready-made guys. He was actually a late blooming player, excuse me, from Brunswick, Georgia. This is southern part of Georgia. DJ Dallas and Alante Hillary from that area.
Hillary, yeah.
I think also Hezzy Kent last year.
Mm-hmm.
So closer to Florida. He was a 3-star player committed to UCF. Georgia came and flipped him at the last minute. Played some defense earlier in his career. Great shot putter, second in the state, which for a 6'7" guy, it's good to have that natural power. But lean, you watch his high school highlights, he was a developmental guy. He wasn't a ready-made guy. Goes to Georgia. Their offensive line coaching situation is a disaster. We said it during the Canwell recruitment. Searles is bad. I mean, Searles is a bad coach. It's amazing he had the jobs that he's had. He's been bad everywhere. Of course, bad at Georgia. Their offensive line goes down considerably. Jackson Canwell picks Miami because he correctly evaluated that Mirabal was a much better offensive line coach. Searles now fired, but this is who was coaching Merriweather. So like you said, the idea is you get him into this program. He's now entering his fourth year. The light comes on. I don't think there's any character stuff. I don't think there's anything weird with it. It's just a matter of he came into Georgia raw and hadn't developed to that point. But now it's 2 years of eligibility to get it right.
So this is what I was laughing at earlier, D. I have to say it. So our buddy Steve Smith here, who commented earlier that we needed to pump the brakes on our freshman class, that we do this every year. Just a few minutes later here, and I listen, I'm not getting on you, Steve. I'm just laughing at this is why we have the best comment section on YouTube. He said just a few minutes later, after telling us to pump the brakes on our freshman class, says he doesn't care for Mensah because we have Timothy Coleman.
Ready to win a national championship. Just got here. You know what, though? I will say this, Pete, and obviously I think we need a transfer portal quarterback. I've thought that. I'm excited to see this quarterback battle because not just Timothy Coleman, as he calls him, Darion Coleman, you also have Luke Nickel, and then Judd kind of make or break spring for him as he gets older in his development. All those guys got a lot of talent. I actually put Judd to the side because he's a little different in terms of how he operates. I think Mensah, Nickel, and Coleman are all kind of similar as far as like they're not the biggest guys. They're gunslingers. You put them in there, let them distribute the ball. So I like that fit and that battle. See how those guys can do. We got a lot of receivers, as you know. So there's going to be an interesting backup quarterback battle and maybe quarterback of the future next year battle. Or this year, guys get hurt. You know, Mets is not the biggest guy, God forbid. But that's going to be a very, very interesting battle between those three, with, to me, Luke and Darian being more similar to a Mensah, and then Judd Anderson being his own deal with his size. And look, to me, Judd, make or break. We'll talk about this more as we get ready for spring. But I think if he has a great spring, great. If he falls behind, I think he'd talk about him about tight end potentially. So make or break to me for Judd. I think the guy's good. I think he's got great size, great athletic ability. So he needs to play football somewhere.
Hey, we need a tight end, man.
I know that's what I would do, but he maybe wants to play quarterback and go somewhere else. I don't know. Or again, that's why I say it's make or break. Spring, he balls and he's a number 2 quarterback, and you got yourself a big athletic quarterback making strides. That's why spring is going to be fun to watch with that backup quarterback.
Where's Travis? Where's Travis Thomas at, man?
I know.
He's not watching live because he would have been all over this part of the show.
100%. Judd the stud. More portal news, Pete, before we get off the portal. Cornerbacks are back. They announced, right? So that Damari Brown, which Damari Brown to me was the make or break because he was someone.
Him and OJ. There were some teams coming after OJ hard, very, very hard here.
And look, they're expensive players who are injured a lot. So it becomes complicated, but ultimately you keep your 4 top corners who are 4 of the top corners in the country between OJ Frederico, I think, is your top man cover corner. Xavier Lucas, size, speed, very reliable. Ethan O'Connor, which people are going to like, it's so reactionary. People are like, oh, this guy sucks because a huge NFL receiver caught some back shoulders on him. I mean, Ethan O'Connor is a really, really good player. He'd go, if he jumps in the portal, you have a line of teams out to get him. And then Damari Brown, who to me, I think teams are trying to poach. He's as good as anybody when he's healthy. His issue's been health, similar to OJ. His issue's been health, super physical, and very productive player. So to get all 4 of those guys, plus you got Jabari Antoine coming back and emerging, plus you got some more guys Chris Ewald, Jalen Waters. You got a lot of guys. I think if you're bringing back those four, which quite frankly, I'm surprised that we were able to pull that off. I think you got to, one of those guys has got to be willing to play some nickel. Has to. And I don't know why it's such a, negative for people to play nickel, but I think
if anything at this point, all of those guys, it probably helps them because they've all shown they can play boundary corner. I can tell you, like, if Keontae Scott had the ability to play or if he had shown that he can play boundary corner D, then he would be higher than we'll see where he goes, but he'd be like a first round pick.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I think there's a negative connotation around it, because if one of those guys played nickel and ball out and you're looked at as more of a nickel corner, you decrease your value. But it's a lot of hoops to jump through there. Just go out there and play good football, and everything else will take care of itself.
And play more.
Those guys are all good athletes too, by the way. So like they'll all test well.
I think Damari Brown in nickel and outside, not nickel only. He's shown he can play outside, but Damari Brown in the nickel, he's like a linebacker. He's extremely physical. He is extremely physical. So, I like that whole thing. By the way, this is portal related. I just want to get to this because it's in the comments all over the place. People are talking about Mensah versus Beck, and we'll talk plenty of Mensah here, saying, Mensah's twice as good as Beck. Mensah's way better than Beck. Here's what I'll say. I want to caution people. Just like when Beck and Ward were getting compared, I had to caution people. Listen, this is something that is, I believe, to be true. Someone could tell me if it's not true, but I'm pretty sure it's true, and I've talked to enough people that actually know what they're talking about in this world to confirm it is true. Pete, tell me if I'm wrong. Mensah and Beck are both draft eligible, and we'll see where Beck gets drafted, but I believe if Mensah would have gone pro this year, he would have been drafted after Beck, meaning Mensah's stock was not as high as Beck's stock is right now in 2026. So same thing when people got too excited about Beck after a couple of good starts and they were comparing him to Ward. You got to take a step back sometimes. I think Mensah is going to be incredible at Miami. This guy was the number 2 passer in the country this year. He's going to have way better receivers from a depth standpoint, top to bottom, than Miami had last year. As far as just the overall group is going to be better. I think Mensah's numbers are going to be outstanding. And I think he's a great kid. And I think he's going to win a lot of games. He's going to give us a chance to win a championship. I am over the moon about Mensah. But let's not just immediately forget what we just had and the ability to win against real teams consistently. I mean, how many top 10 teams has Beck beaten? So I think Mensah is going to be awesome. I think Mensah is going to be playing with great players around him, better defense, all those things. I think he's going to be great. But this idea of immediately the guy that leaves you forget about is not right. And again, they're saying the arm issues that cost us with Beck. Maybe I'm wrong, Pete, but I'm pretty sure when Beck goes to his pro day, people are going to like his arm. I think there were some timing issues and some receiver speed issues that hurt our deep ball more than Beck's arm strength. In fact, I'm pretty sure, although I think Mensah probably has a better deep ball just from a timing perspective, Beck right now has a better arm than Mensah. So again, I'm not trying to down Mensah. I'm going to hype Mensah to the moon. I think he's going to be incredible. I think his numbers and our offensive numbers, as far as points and all that, is going to be higher next year by a lot. And their passing game is going to be better for the whole package. I think Mensah is going to be elite here. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I think people in the chat just have a very distorted opinion of certain things. It's particularly like the physical tools we're talking about here. Because again, Beck was a higher prospect this year. I mean, next year might be different. It might be like a Cam Ward or where Mensah goes number 1. But what I'm saying is true. I mean, you could disagree all you want, but ask someone who knows from the NFL, and they'll tell you what I'm saying is the truth. So
Mensah's coming in with a higher grade than Ward had when he came into Miami. And again, that's the truth, D.
You're too down on Ward's. We've had this argument before.
But D.
There was similar. I'd say similar grades.
No.
Similar grades.
Mensah, if he came out right now, I'm sorry. I mean, obviously,
which I think Ward would have gotten.
Ward would have been maybe undrafted. I mean, right now, D,
that's wrong. You're wrong.
D, that's 100% true. That's what D. Multiple teams at that point had him undrafted. Like that's not.
It's not true.
You can get upset about it, but that's.
I'm not upset. I've talked to people that say this is that's not.
Well,
accurate.
You've talked to people and I've talked to people.
It's called scouts.
There were people that I've
never
different opinions.
He would never got
some had him undrafted. That's it's not. You can't tell me what it was because I had multiple people tell me that it's not.
Some people had it, by the way, as the number 1 overall pick in spring, but
some people did. But that wasn't that draft. That was the draft before. That was the draft before we were talking about.
His tools were too good for that, I think. Okay. Like the difference in Ward is
there are a lot of people that have higher grades on Mensah now. Going back to what I said, you can get upset about it. I'm going to say the facts. There are a lot of people that would say Mensah's draft grade right now is better than what Ward's was coming in.
What do you think Mensah is right now?
Mensah's probably a third rounder.
Yeah,
third rounder probably right now.
I think Mensah third, fourth. I think
Ward was. I think Beck. Yeah, and Beck's experience is gonna be a big thing for him, especially because one of these teams may draft him knowing he's not coming in. He's probably gonna be a backup right away. He's not starting right away. You need to have someone who's stable there. So.
Yeah. I think that's right. Now, look, again, we're talking on Mensah after 2 years of starting, Beck after 3 years of starting. Ward was after like 5 years.
I don't think people understand. Canes Pepe said I'm smoking that good stuff. When Cam Ward transferred to Miami, his draft grade was a late round to undrafted free agent. Mensah, as we're saying, was probably a third to fourth round. So at the time of them transferring, I don't think what I'm saying is anything crazy. And it's not something that for people to get offended about. Mensah's going to be Miami's quarterback, guys. We're all Canes here, right? Let's chill out.
And it's college football too, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to caution with Mensah too, is I'm talking about pro grades. College football is different. So some of the things that he might need to show pro scouts is not going to really matter to him this guy was the second leading passer in college this year. So I don't think that's going to be an issue here. I'm just more saying that because I've already seen the narrative of people like, oh, man, we had this drag at quarterback that is going to get drafted higher than any Miami quarterback not named Cam Ward since 1990, and who is 30. What was he finally? 37-6 as a starter. Was that for the final number? 13 wins this year. So
is that good?
Yeah, is that good? Exactly. Lord knows how many touchdowns and yards in his career. So I don't like the idea of one guy leaves and you're propping up the other guy at the expense of this. I do think our passing game will be better because of everything that we're doing in the passing game, including receiver. But I will caution Pete, we're not going to have the same pass protection. Doesn't look like. Beck and Ward both were just sitting back and having all day. So I think you might see more of a switch with Mensah, an offense that is more like a point guard, like balls coming out of his hands quick, kind of what he had to do, quite frankly. Not that Rhett Lashley derivative offense, which is what Duke had. Their offensive coordinator, Brewer, was a Rhett Lashley guy. I think they were together at Miami when Lashley was here. Duke's offensive coordinator, Mensah's offensive coordinator last year. So I don't think it's going to be that, but I think it will be more of like an up-tempo, kind of like Trey Donaldson, get the ball out of his hands, get some dimes, point guard deal. So it seems like, but we'll see, man. Hopefully we're talking about this on the Mensah commitment show sometime in the next couple of days, or else we're really going to be struggling because now Walker E gets off the board.
Yeah.
But anything else in the portal, Pete, that we should talk about? I think, talking to people, I think this portal's just about at its end here, aside from Cooper Barkate, the receiver from Duke, who obviously is very much tied to Darian Mensah. You think anybody else in the portal, like any other areas to watch? Anything you're seeing? I haven't heard much.
Unless it's a pickup like Klein, that's kind of a depth piece. But I wouldn't be waiting for like some magical guy to enter the portal after the fact it's been closed. Now, I said it the other day. I'm watching grad transfers. I know they said there's one portal period, but we've seen this now play out a couple times. D, what is stopping a guy from graduating in May, whether it's at Miami or another school, graduating in May, withdrawing from the school, and enrolling in another program?
Yeah, I think you could challenge like that. I think really, to me, the NIL contract is what the Mensah problem is. NIL, right, in the contract. If you get somebody who maybe doesn't have the same contractual problems you could test the portal out and let the NCAA tell you you're wrong and maybe sue them. That's a different lawsuit than what we're dealing with here, which is really a high risk lawsuit, right? Because if you don't get Mensah, you're kind of stuck. So that's the scary thing here. You're dealing with contracts. Clutch, appreciate your support. Says, I don't give a damn who the quarterback is. Give me Mark Fletcher. Yeah, Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, Marty Brown, Gerard Pringle. Let me ask you this, Pete, because when it comes to the tight end position, we know Luka Gilbert's going to play a big role. We know Lofton's going to play a lot. Hopefully loses some weight, I think, becomes more of that running back that I know he's capable of being. You have young guys. Mueller, I'm excited about. Briggs is super talented. But it's like, are we going to see just less tight ends on the field and more receivers on the field this year?
That's a question for the offensive coordinator, I guess.
But I mean, can't you see it?
But that's not. I mean, personnel would say that, but that's not. We haven't shown that. That's not what they've shown.
Right.
So I'm in believe it till I see it mode on that one. Quite frankly.
No, I hear you. I just
I asked that same question, and they said depends on who the offensive coordinator is. I'll say it like that.
Yep. And right now, again, Shannon Dawson. So that hasn't changed, and I'm not sure it's going to change. I thought it might at some point. Obviously this guy's in demand. He's got a lot of opportunities. I'm not sure. We'll find out about that. That's not to be.
But if it's him, I don't see it being much different than what we've seen, honestly.
Yeah, it's good. Look, we'll see. To me, you got to play to your personnel. And if let's say we get Cooper Barkate, right, Pete? Then you're talking about, and we don't add a tight end. I mean, it's about Cooper Barkate, who's top 10 receiver in the country as far as yards. Malachi Toney is the second best receiver in the country behind Jeremiah Smith, going to make his case for first. Those guys obviously are going to play a lot. Cam Vaughn was the number one receiver for West Virginia. Probably would have put up crazy numbers if you had a quarterback that could complete a forward pass. Vondrevious Jacobs, similar deal in a bad offense, but was productive and is a ascending player. So those four guys, those guys are good. It doesn't even get into Dalen Upshaw, Josh Moore, Samorian Wingo, the Vance Spaffords of the world, right? So Milan Paris. So there's a lot of receivers, man, that can play here. And then running back, it's like, all right, you have Fletcher and Marty and Jordan Lyle and Pringle. Injuries come into play at running back, obviously. But could we see a situation where you get Fletcher and Lyle, Fletcher and Pringle, Marty and Pringle, and maybe like Fletcher and Lyle and Marty, the guys that are more physical? Maybe those guys are like lead blocking at times. We've seen Fletcher lead block, and he's really, really good at it. I think Marty has done it a couple times too. Lyle could do it if he had to. He's a good blocker. So I don't know. There's different things you could see here than your usual, like, hey, we're going to use a lot of 2-3 tight ends and just pound people. You can also use offensive linemen as tight ends. Joel Irvin.
They do it already.
Right. So it'll be interesting, man. This is a fun time to be a Cane. Over 4,000 on right now. Pete, I got to give you a chance here to talk a little hoops because very, very important win against Syracuse. Some really, really nice shooting from Timo. I
got to say, D, it was the win was fantastic. I had a very, very disappointing moment as a basketball fan during that game.
What's that?
I'm a big Carmelo Anthony fan.
Oh,
I'm a huge Carmelo Anthony fan. One of the great scorers we've ever seen. Didn't do much winning, but provided a lot of entertainment, which is what it's really all about at the end of the day. His son, man, let me tell you something. True Washington went to go try to make a play. Went to go try to make a nice defensive play. Keon Anthony dunks and then just tries to swing his legs over the top of him and then was acting all tough. From that moment on, Miami flipped the switch.
Yeah.
And honestly, and then Malik Renew, the next possession down, gets a 3-point play, and he's yelling at Syracuse. And the guys really, I got to say, that was a Jay Lucas win because the way that they, not a great Syracuse team, threw that zone at us. Trenton Breeze, my goodness, Trenton Breeze. Let me tell you something. Trenton's not only the mush on the football side, but on the basketball side, Trenton was in the group chat talking about the zone defense, this zone defense, that. Jay Lucas had a plan and they executed it. They attacked the zone very well, but again, that flipped the switch, man. Keon Anthony moment right there got the team going.
Yeah, it's one of those ESPN plays of the day, like on YouTube. It's one of the first thing that comes up. So they're obviously with his dad, they're putting that up and broadcasting it. But W goes to the Miami Hurricanes and huge bounce back because FSU. Like, I'm not surprised they lost FSU just because you knew Pete going into the year, they're not going to be blowing teams out, right? A lot of they're going to play tight games. And when you play tight games, even as the better team, and Miami's definitely better than FSU, you're going to lose some of them where just things don't go your way. So to bounce back and keep this thing rolling, I thought was a very, very positive step. I love Shelton Henderson in transition, man. Shelton Henderson in transition. He's so big. Man, how can you get in front of him?
And he's shooting the ball with more confidence now as well, D. So I think sometimes these guys who aren't great shooters, their confidence, it's not even just getting better. It doesn't get better throughout the season, but it just kind of stays where it's at and it limits what they can do. He stays aggressive getting downhill in transition. He does not pass up open 3-point shots. Right, he'll take a mid-range jumper as well. He's starting to, take some floaters in the paint as well. You know who I think deserves a huge shout out? Ernest Udeh. He's really upped his game here in the ACC. I keep saying it. He is DeAndre Jordan as a lob threat. Young DeAndre Jordan, the way that he can run the floor, defend, has really good, hands in terms of going out and being aggressive and grabbing. He's not reacting to the ball coming towards him. He's going and snatching it, right? And he's someone that has been a really good tone setter in the ACC here. So just excited about the trajectory of this team. You have Stanford here at home on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Home game against Stanford. So that's interesting. I'll be out there. Excited about where this thing's headed, man. That the Duke one, the FSU loss, really. I know you said you weren't surprised, D.
Well, they happen. Those things happen. It's not like we've lost a lot of those.
I know. That was the first one they lost that you could say they shouldn't have lost. Everything else they've, even the Clemson game, road game, got punched in the mouth and weren't able to really recover there. The shooting wasn't there.
They were ranked, right? They were like 22nd, weren't they?
Yeah. Clemson's a good team. So it's Clemson's still, they're 6-0 in the ACC, 17-4. They'll be ranked today. They're number 18 right now. They might be top 15 after this week. So, but no, Miami's you're right there. You're up near the top of the ACC. You're fourth in the ACC. And you've got an opportunity. Stanford, that's a very winnable game. They're 3-4 in the conference. Then you have Cal after that. So two very, very winnable games for Miami at home. If you can get to 7-2 now, heading into then Boston College, the worst team, one of the worst teams in the ACC. Florida State and Pitt also really bad. Don't want to look too ahead there, but then you have North Carolina at home after that one, and you win these next three, 19-4, 8-2 in the ACC, with a potentially a ranked showdown there at home against North Carolina. Now we're talking.
100%. Nice bet there by Tyler Cannon. Birdstone, our boy, shout out to the villains, saying, do we have a guy who's just a bucket like a Zay Wong you can give 2-on-1? Malik
Renew
is not just a finisher. He's got some stuff that if you give him the ball, he has enough moves, at least against some teams and some matchups, where I feel pretty good about what he can do.
Yeah, I think, when there's an athlete that's who can move at 6'10", that might give him problems, the foot speed stuff, D. But he can finish through contact, and he's a really good passer as well. Yeah. He has a good sense. He had a bad turnover early in the game, but he has a good sense of when because he's forcing a lot of double teams, because you can't really leave him one-on-one. So he has a very good sense of the double team coming, and I think that's probably your best bet there. True Washington has shown me more offensively, D, as a guy who can play it, who could get some mid-range buckets, who can knock down some threes, not super consistently there, but gets to his spots on the floor and can finish. He's not the biggest guy in the world. And he doesn't have, he's not a huge leaper. So around the rim, it's more of a finesse game for him. But I would say those two. And how about Timo Malovic, D? 2 huge threes in the second half there against Syracuse. That really, I would say, gave them some breathing room. Noam Dovrat is hitting about a three a game. He also had a nice shot off the dribble as well. So it's nice to see these guys playing certain roles and providing good depth off the bench.
Yeah, talk about Malovic. It just looks nice when he shoots. Like, it's a nice looking shot. So yeah, he definitely is getting more confident. Ben Marcus says it. This is not rocket science. It's not news to anybody, but Ben is absolutely right. You got to make free throws. I think, to me, I'm more concerned with free throws than threes, just because the way this team plays, the threes are what they are. This team's built a certain way. When you're built to play this style of grabby ball, you gotta make free throws. That's going to be a key when you get into tournament play, ACC, and hopefully NCAA. Shout out to Zaylin, our boy. Says, driving back to Columbus with my bro after our Miami weekend. Pretty depressing going to from Miami to Columbus. Missed a 305 already. Go Canes, boys. There it is. And I appreciate meeting you, Zaylin, at the championship game. Was a great game. Obviously, the result not what we wanted, but lasting memory. Biggest rated non-NFL sporting event since the Cubs winning the World Series in Game 7 a decade ago. That is insane, man. That really was a special season, and a lot of not just memories for Canes fans, but like,
what was the stat you graded? Would you say most watched? What?
If you put the NFL to the side, because NFL has the highest ratings. If you move NFL out, this was the highest rated sporting event since the Chicago Cubs won the World Series.
I told you that's just not true. The Champions League gets hundreds of millions of viewers. I guess it's
in the free world. In the free world, in the United States, the highest rated.
So that's what it is then. Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Man, Blaze says Malovic stinks. Oh, brother, I don't know that we're watching the same games, man. He tends to make the right plays. The shot is getting a lot more consistent. He had a huge shot against Georgia Tech that slammed the door on Georgia Tech. He hit 2 threes here that I think almost put these guys away. I don't know, man. He's a tough matchup. 6'9", can handle the ball. Pretty good defender as well. Moves his feet.
And we're not seeing, I think, the end of what he does.
Right.
I think he'll add more the more confidence he gets, and hopefully he keeps playing. Like, hopefully he's not just like goes pro in Slovakia or wherever after a year. Hopefully he stays and develops. He's only a sophomore, right, for Miami's purposes? Or
yeah, he's got 3 years eligibility.
So if he can like see that all the way through at Miami, I think by the end of it, you're going to be seeing a guy that's not just a shooter and a solid defender, but a guy that's going off the dribble, finishing, setting guys up. I think there's more there. It's just a matter of getting confident in his role, mastering his current role, and then expanding.
For sure. D, wanted to shout out, as always, Aries Law for the basketball coverage here on CanesInSight. This is estate planning, so trusts, wills, probate, corporate law. AriesLawPA.com. Schedule your free consultation today. You can do a virtual consultation or in person as well. 2103 Coral Way, Suite 800 there in Coral Gables, down Coral Way. Again, AriesLawPA.com. Visit them today to schedule your free consultation.
Is your dad Peter or Pedro? Because I call him Pedro, but I'm seeing Peter there.
Pedro. He has to sometimes put both out there.
Well, now he's going to get confused with, media superstar Peter Aries. He's going to have to change it just so he doesn't get confused.
It happens, man. It happens. People ask me all the time if I'm an attorney. I'm not. That is Aries Law PA. Well,
you've broken down this Duke case.
Listen, it doesn't take a legal expert to break it down. It helps to have a Jim Sala, but NIL law is not real law. That's the problem that people don't understand. Like, there is some aspects of it when you bring the legal system into it that 100% it is, but the basis of what we're talking about, until the NCAA changes their rules, people don't understand. It's like the NFL has their set of rules. They have their CBA. An attorney can look at a contract. There's only so much a contract can be changed with these NFL things because they have it within their CBA and their rules. The NCAA rules are the NCAA rules until they actually change what it is and what it isn't. NIL is going to be what it continues to be.
Yeah, I think the best way to say it is NIL is IP law. It is law, but it's an intellectual property law. It's not labor law. It's not employment law. So you got to take it for what it is and not what it isn't. And when the NCAA tries to enforce their rules, like you said, Pete, not collectively bargained, NCAA rules not worth the paper they're printed on. So, anyways, shout out to the Miami Hurricane team store, getting ready for baseball season, basketball season in full swing, or just want to celebrate this great football season and some of the memories. 20% off store-wide at the Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com. You can also use promo code INSIGHT20 all year for 20% off your first item. But there you go, all the different stuff from the various wins from the road. Some really, really cool stuff. Then, of course, baseball, basketball, you name it, they have it. Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20. All right, Pete. I'll see you again here later today. That Mensah news percolating.
Well, we definitely will, because at 6:00 the schedule's released, so we'll have to go live tonight for that one. It's gonna be a weird one. I'll tell you that much. It's never a simple schedule with the ACC in Miami. Unbelievable.
We'll talk about it. Like and subscribe to the show. We're 4,300 on. Go Canes.
Go Canes.